let's download the base image. Base image, as I mentioned, that's basically called Vagrant box, which is pre-configured image. So the place from where we have to download the Vagrant images or Vagrant box, that is called Atlas, that is Vagrant repository. So let me quickly go to Vagrant repository, which is called Atlas. You can see on screen there are different providers: VirtualBox, VMware, AWS, DigitalOcean, Docker, Google Hyper-V, Rackspace Parallels, and V2. Depending upon your provider, because we are using VirtualBox, I will select VirtualBox here. It will list out all the images which are supported on VirtualBox. Supported mean which are provided by HashiCorp or the Atlas repository. You can also create your own repository, as well as you can create your own version of image. That's again separate, but for this demo I'm going to download one Vagrant box. So like this is Ubuntu Trust 364, which is official Ubuntu server, release 14.0.04 LTS. This is CentOS image. If you want to get detail of any image or any box, like what is configured, what is the configuration, you can click on the box. Once you click the box, you can see it got support for VMware, libvirt, and VirtualBox. And on this particular date, it was added. This is the detailed information. If you want to see more detailed information, click this particular link. It will take you to CentOS site where you can see all detail. So this is something for VMware, sorry, for VirtualBox. And depending upon your requirement, you can go to different boxes, box version, box providers. So you can download the different boxes. Okay, once your box is downloaded, basically how to download a box now, because with this link you will only get the information. So you can run command Vagrant box add box name. As I mentioned, CentOS 7 is the CentOS 7 box. So it will automatically download the box and add it in Vagrant local repository. If you want to list what boxes you got on your machine, on your Vagrant base machine, you can run Vagrant box list. It will tell, okay, these are the boxes available locally. As a next step, we will be setting path of virtual machines, or you can say machine folder where all the virtual machines will be saved, because VirtualBox software is going to create machine from the box or base image which we downloaded from Atlas, means Vagrant repository. For that, I'm choosing one non-root, or you can say non-operating system partition. I've already created a partition with name app_store. Basically that's a mount point, and I have created a directory. I'm setting machine folder to be this particular path, so it will not fill my operating system or root drive. So let's do these things. I've already downloaded the virtual boxes, so let me quickly show you. When you run Vagrant box list, it lists out the Vagrant boxes. So I have already installed, basically downloaded the Vagrant boxes. But if you have to download, let me give you one quick demo. I will cancel that because these boxes are basically around 200 MB in size. So it takes time to download a VirtualBox. And depending upon box size may be different. It may be bigger or larger. So let me quickly demonstrate how you can download a box. So Vagrant box add, then box name. Let's pick HashiCorp, which is the box name, HashiCorp/precise 32 for this demo. This is 32-bit box. Once you press enter, it automatically contacts the HashiCorp Atlas repository. If you see, this is a path. Then it says adding box. It is downloading this particular version of box, And automatically, if you see, it picked the provider VirtualBox, because VirtualBox is the default provider. If you don't specify anything, it checks, okay, what is your VirtualBox provider. Sometime the downloader asks like what is a particular provider for which you want to download the box. So that's something you can see on my screen. This is the download speed I'm getting, and box is getting downloaded from Atlas repository. It may take another 10 minutes to finish. I'm backgrounding it, so let it run. Okay, so we already got 2 boxes as I mentioned before, so that's something we can continue. And once 3rd box is downloaded, it will automatically appear here. So that's not part of our agenda, because I'm going to use CentOS 7, or I can use Ubuntu Trust 364, which is again 64-bit version of operating system, for demonstration. So first thing, before starting the Vagrant machine creation, I want to change the path of machine folder. For that, as I mentioned before, I will run command vbox manage set property machine folder, then the path I'm saying app store and virtual machines. This need to be my machine folder. If you don't know CLI, which is basically not required to learn CLI because we are going to use Vagrant, but if you are interested to learn VirtualBox CLI, I have recorded another video a couple of days back. You can refer that video. Just search on my YouTube channel with the VirtualBox keyword. You will get that video. So that's good to learn if you want. So friends, this part is done. We have changed the machine folder to our custom path, and let me quickly show you. This is separate mount point. This is a separate drive. Right now it's only 33 MBUs, which is default by file system. So this particular folder is empty as of now, and we will be starting filling up with our machine configuration. So next thing, we have to initialize a new Vagrant environment, or you can say environment for your new Vagrant machine. For that, you can create a directory where you want to store your Vagrant file and Vagrant configuration. Then cd to that particular path and run Vagrant init, followed by box image name. Let's say if you want to go with CentOS 7, as you can see here, I'm demonstrating CentOS 7. So it will automatically create a configuration file specific to CentOS 7 box. If you don't specify the box image name, what it means, it will automatically pick some a random thing, which is basically test box. You can again change that as per your requirement, but it's better if you can specify your box image. When you run Vagrant init, basically it creates a Vagrant file in your current directory from where you run this command, and you can customize that file as per your requirement. I will take you through to that particular file in 1 or 2 minutes. Once your file is created and you have customized it as per your requirement, then you can run Vagrant up. Vagrant up mean it will bring up the virtual machine with the configuration defined inside Vagrant file. So that's easy. Your instance will boot up, and whatever automation you have done or whatever configuration you have done, that will be immediately applied. Once your machine is up, you can run Vagrant SSH from the directory where your Vagrant file is present. So it will automatically take you to your guest operating system. If you want to try to SSH from different directory, for that you can SSH with particular port for that particular guest VM with the local host, and user is Vagrant. By default on the Vagrant images, Vagrant is the user used for communication or for the login purpose. Password is default Vagrant. Then once you are in machine, you can do whatever work you want. If you want to list out the Vagrant VMs from your base system, you can run Vagrant space global-status. It will tell you status of your Vagrant machines. So let's quickly do these things. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to use this particular directory for storing the Vagrant images. Let me create a directory here. I'm going to say Vagrant environment or Vagrant target machine as CentOS 7 underscore demo. This is going to be configuration directory or directory for my target machine. So directory is created. Let me cd to this directory now. Okay, I am in directory. So now next thing, as I mentioned, we have to run Vagrant init, and you can specify image or the box which you want to use. I'm saying I want to use CentOS 7. So it will create a Vagrant file. You can see this message: a Vagrant file has been placed in this directory. You are now ready to Vagrant up your first virtual environment. Please read the comment in the Vagrant file as well as documentation on vagrant.com. So before running Vagrant up, I just want to quickly demonstrate what are the options inside Vagrant file and how you can customize it. And I want to give you a quick demo also how customization works. So let's do ls-l. You can see only single file is here with the name Vagrantfile. So let me vim this file. Okay, so a couple of things inside this file. Let me start from the beginning. This is in Ruby mode. So this is a way like Ruby configuration works. So config VM box, like which VM box to be used. As I mentioned, box is sometimes called base image also, which base image or which box to be used. As we defined using Vagrant init, use CentOS 7. Next thing, config.vm.box_check_update is set to false. It is commented. What basically it means? When your guest machine is coming up, you want automatically updates to happen because your base image was created some time back. It may not always the latest one. So if any latest updates are available, shall the machine automatically update itself? So that's something you can see. We are not defining or doing manually in the guest machine, but we can control from here. So that's something which is commented. It means it will automatically do or check the update when guest machine is coming up. So next thing, config VM network forward port. What it means, how your port forwarding will work. Because on your base machine, you are going to run multiple Vagrant and you will be running multiple services. In that case, on which particular port on the guest machine you want to target and what is going to be port number on your local machine. If I send some request to port 8080 on my local machine, it will automatically target port 80 on guest machine. So that's something which is commented. If you want to add port forwarding, you can enable it. Just uncomment this line and follow this method and do your port forwarding. Only thing need to show that port is not already used on your local machine as well as guest machine. So next thing, if you want to define private network, by default it will set up its own networking, but if you want to define private network, you can go with this way. And next thing, your public network. So uncomment this line, it will use public network. Okay, another important thing, that's a very important thing to know, VM synced folder. What it mean? If you want to share a folder from your base machine, which is our CentOS 7 machine on which we installed Vagrant. If you want to share a folder or directory from that machine to guest, you can uncomment this line. You can say, okay, this is folder on local machine and this is going to be folder on target machine. So in that way, you can share the folders between the machines, which is sometimes a very useful feature when you want to keep your content on your base machine, means local machine, and on guest you simply want to use that for temporary purpose. In that case, it not make sense to create a new file system inside machine. You can use file system of your global machine or guest machine. base machine. Okay, next thing, because we are using VirtualBox, and VirtualBox is the default or preferred provider via Vagrant. So if you want to enable GUI, in that case you can uncomment these entries, which is bv.gui is true. By default it's commented, by default it will not use VirtualBox GUI, but if you uncomment this line, if you want to uncomment, like you have to uncomment from here, this particular line need to be uncommented first, because this is something which is the configuration for a VM provider, and this particular setting is part of VM provider. Just uncomment these lines. If you want to set VirtualBox memory, you can uncomment this one. You can set whatever limit you want, and also need to be uncommented, because this is the whole block which controls the VirtualBox VM provider configuration. I hope you understood this one. So next thing, if you want to define Vagrant push strategy for pushing your image to Atlas, as I mentioned, you can create your custom image. You can uncomment these lines and define your strategy. Here you have to replace with your Atlas username and application name. Then next and very important thing, this is about provisioner. As I mentioned, there are two types of provisioner. One is shell provisioner, one is automation tool provisioner. Right now in this demo I'm going to tell you about shell provisioner. So let me tell you what we can do. Okay, let me give you a quick demo how you can use shell provisioner. So for this purpose I'm uncommenting. As I mentioned, config start from config line. Here I'm going to use my own configuration. Let me add a user add. We will call it Vagrant lab user. That's a very big name. I know this is not standard, but that's for test. Let's go with this one. After that, let me create one directory, mkdir/root/testdir. For example, we will create this directory, and let's install one package, yum install. Let's install ksh, for example, -y. It's always good to say -y here, because it will not wait for answer. So we already said it's yes for everything. Let's get rid of these lines. So this is something I have configured whenever machine boots up, and when operating system of customer machine is ready, run these particular configuration. If you got some shell script, if you want to execute that particular shell script, you can define here, which will do your application configuration or your operating system customization. As per your requirement, whatever you want, you can put that in your shell script. So this is a way like you can use provisioner. I'm saving this file. So this file is ready. So now let's bring up our first Vagrant box. For that, we have to run Vagrant. When you run Vagrant up, it automatically brings up the VM. So here, that's important to learn. I will tell you step by step. If you see bringing machine default, because I haven't defined any target hostname, so it is saying default with VirtualBox as provider. Because we are using VirtualBox, importing base box CentOS 7 as we defined to use CentOS 7 base box. So it is basically right now it is cloning the VM from that particular VirtualBox, and it is showing progress. It will done very quickly. Okay, next thing is importing base box. That's done. Matching MAC address, so it did the MAC thing. Checking if box is up to date or not. As I mentioned, it will automatically update, which we haven't commented. So by default, it is checking whether that box is already up to date or not. Then it is setting the name of target machine. It set the name as CentOS_demo_default with this particular ID. Clearing any previously set network interfaces. It automatically created one netted adapter 1, and this is the port forwarding. So on guest port 22, that is forwarded on the host with port 2222. In case you spin up new VM, Vagrant is intelligent, it will automatically use some other port on host because this port is already utilized. After that, it is booting the VM. Then it is waiting for that VM to come up. Basically, it is checking whether Vagrant can do SSH into target machine or not. So if you can see here, it is targeting port 2222 with the local host or loopback IP with user Vagrant. As I mentioned, by default, user Vagrant is used for all the communications, and password is default, which is Vagrant. But you will be wondering why it is using a private key, where we have defined this particular private key. I will come to this point in 1 or 2 minutes. Right now, it was getting disconnect because machine may be booting, but machine is booted now. It found the key, and Vagrant is able to communicate. Now you can see automatically it is installing a couple of packages. These are part of update process. As we can see here, checking if that particular box is up to date or not. So it found these packages are outdated. So right now it is installing the packages. That's the beauty of Vagrant. It is controlling everything. Because otherwise we have to run these commands manually by logging into guest machine after the creation, whether all the packages are up to date or not. So Vagrant is doing all the things for us. And don't get confused, the KSH installation which I defined in the Vagrant file, that is going to be a separate task. That is part of provisioner. This is not a provisioner thing. This is the default Vagrant configuration which is happening now. So our machine is up basically. Now Vagrant is doing the configuration part. The basic configuration, then it will run the provisioner configuration. Okay, so the machine update worked. And it is on next step, which is scoping ISO file. Basically, that's VirtualBox guest edition.iso. It will mount it on this particular path. After that, it will do the basic configuration of machine. If you remember, on VMware box, we install virtual tool, or you can say VM tool, right? Similar something is relevant for VirtualBox. It is doing that configuration. That's called VirtualBox tools or the plugins. So it is doing that stuff now. And it will automatically run whatever the appropriate commands need to be executed on the target machine. Okay, now next thing you can see on screen, it just did checking the guest edition in the VM. Okay, this is gone. Let me move the cursor back up. So this is something by default Vagrant share the folder in which you kept the Vagrant file to the guest machine. Because if you see this was the folder which we created, it automatically re-syncing folder to this particular folder. So this folder of base machine automatically gets shared to this particular path, which is Vagrant way. So if you want to configure a web server, you can keep your files here, and on your Vagrant machine it will be automatically shared on this path, which you can create symbolic link, and you can run your application. No need to copy the data to the guest machine. Now here it is running provisioner here. So as we were using shell provisioner, so it installed the KSH package, if you see, which we defined in the provisioner configuration, and it got installed. I'm sure the other configuration, which was adding a user and creating a directory, that also happened. Why it is not displayed on screen? Because I haven't enabled the debugging. You can manage the debugging mode, which will give you more detailed information like what is happening in the background. I don't want to go in that much detail, so that's something we can verify. Okay, our machine is up. So let's quickly log into target machine from same directory. Because I'm in my base directory where I have kept my configuration file, I can run Vagrant SSH. Before doing SSH, I just want to show you how SSH works. You can run Vagrant SSH config. It tells you what is the Vagrant configuration, which Vagrant is using basically. You can see it is using this particular IP, which is loopback IP, user Vagrant, on this particular port. So inside your configuration directory, Vagrant knows what is the port used by a machine for communication. So this is the port. Key checking, no. Which identity file to be used? This is the private key basically. So that's something, this is the way Vagrant communicates with target machine. So let's log into target machine. Vagrant SSH, press enter. Okay, you can see we are on target machine now, and let me run what I'm not okay. Package is there, so it is saying script need to be run as root. Okay, let's become root. Okay, it is showing VirtualBox is the provider and KVM. So that's something. We are on target machine. This is our CentOS 7 machine. You can see it got its own file system structure, its own IP addresses. Sorry, if config is not present, we have to install it. Let's run IP. So this is the target machine IP, which picked 10.0.2.15, which is the Vagrant range. Let's try to ping Google. We are able to ping because it is a netted network, and whatever on base machine, it automatically replicates the configuration. So you can see we are able to ping Google. I'm not sure NS lookup is installed. It is not, but we can try to ping Google to make sure name resolution is also happening. You can see name resolution is happening. So everything, this machine is ready, and you can configure whatever you want to configure on this machine. And you can see whatever you have defined in the Vagrantfile, ultimately that thing got deployed. Okay, let me quickly show you user which we added. You can see this was the user, Vagrant lab user, which we added in the provisioner configuration. So that ultimately got created. We created one directory in root. You can see testdir, that got created. So whatever you defined in the provisioner configuration area in the Vagrantfile, that will automatically get executed, which means you don't need to worry about doing the configuration once machine is created. So Vagrant will take care of everything. It will take care of setting up the configuration, creating a VirtualBox, booting the VirtualBox, to verify whether box is up to date or not, whatever the network information or network interfaces you want to create in target machine, whatever the automation you want to do inside the target machine. So in the single file, everything is defined. So that's the beauty of Vagrant. That's the reason it is getting popular. Not getting popular, but it's already popular. So let me quit from this machine. So next thing, you can run Vagrant global status. This command, it will tell you what is the machine which is running on your system. I created one machine earlier that is also running. This is the second machine. This is the ID, basically that's Vagrant ID, and name is default because we haven't used any name. VirtualBox is the provider, state is running, this machine is running, and this is the directory where this machine is running. In that way you can see how many machines you are running, what is the base directory of those machines. So that's something I believe you will be enjoying or you will be learning, because definitely that's good. We are running two machines. Another thing I want to show you, because if you see here, if you remember, we were using port 2222 on the target machine, right? If you want to SSH to this machine, instead of running Vagrant SSH, you can run SSH -p, which is port number, and port number is 2222, and the target 127.0.0.1 -health user is Vagrant. As I mentioned, Vagrant is the default user. So it is complaining machine identification is changed. So what I can do for that purpose, I can remove this particular entry from non-hosts. Let me retry. So we are in the machine, right? CentOS demo is the machine name. Sorry, it's still complaining. We are not in it. It is saying permission denied. So what's the reason? If you can try to think of, I know what I'm doing wrong. So to give you clue, I'm running this command as root, right? But I'm not using key. I have to use key basically. So how I can define the key, let me show you. So I've just defined the identity file, which is basically private key. Same command, only thing I have added -i, which is to specify identity file. I'm using this particular key. And I got this information from Vagrant SSH config, you can see on my screen. And I'm on guest machine now. So let me quit from here. So that's something you can do if you want to use SSH instead of using Vagrant SSH. So that's something easy. Couple of other things which you can do if you want to know what is the Vagrant port mapping. So you can run command Vagrant port followed by Vagrant machine. It will tell you what is the port mapping from the host to the guest machine. If you want to show IP address of guest machine from your base machine, you can run Vagrant IP-show. Basically, to run this command, you need to install Vagrant plugin, which is called Vagrant-IP-show. Once you install that plugin, you can be able to run basically the IP show command. I've listed a couple of other commands, which is Vagrant status. This tells status of Vagrant machines. Global status, that basically it tells status for Vagrant environment for this particular user. Vagrant up, it puts a VM. Vagrant halt, if you want to stop the VM. Suspend, basically suspend the VM. Destroy, stops the VM, then it deletes the Vagrant machine. It automatically deletes the VirtualBox machine. So that's good. It automatically stops and deletes the machine. Vagrant reload, it means it restart the Vagrant machine and load the new Vagrant config. For example, you want to do some reconfiguration work. Let's say you want to do some customization. You can update your Vagrant file. After that, you can run Vagrant reload. It will automatically reload or restart the machine with the new configuration. Vagrant port, as I mentioned, basically displays the information about guest port mapping. So let's quickly go through these commands. So first command, Vagrant port. You can see in this particular directory, port 22 of guest is netted with forwarded to port 2222 on the host. So that's something gives you information. So let's install a Vagrant IP show plugin. For that, to install a plugin, you can run Vagrant plugin install and plugin name. I hope this command works. Looks like it's working. So let it finish. Okay, plugin is installed. Now we can run command Vagrant IP show. This will tell IP. Okay, we got error. It is saying Vagrant failed to initialize at very early stage. Plugin failed to load properly. Error message is coming. Cannot load such file -- pointer. Basically, seems like some issue with this particular plugin. Seems like the plugin which I installed, which is IP show, that is complaining. That may be partial because I downloaded from Git repository. I'm not sure whether that's supposed to working or it got some issue, so I have uninstalled it. So to get the IP, another way what you can run from your box, you can run Vagrant SSH -c is basically to specify command and hostname -i. So I believe it will give you IP information. Let's wait. It is showing only local IP, so let's run IP command. Plugins are useful many times, but sometimes if they got some issue in that way, from global machine you can simply run this command Vagrant SSH -c hostname I. It will give you, okay, this is the IP of target machine. So that's something you can do. So let me quickly tell you the operations which we can do on Vagrant machine. So let me list out the machine status. So first thing, Vagrant status. Basically with Vagrant status, it will tell you the status of machine, which particular directory you are in. So right now I am in CentOS7_demo directory, which got its own Vagrant file. So it is telling about status of that particular machine only. It is not telling status of all the globally mean all the machines running on this particular base machine. To run or display the global thing, you can run Vagrant global status. You can see 2 machines are running, and this is the detailed information. This is the Vagrant ID. I already explained this thing. So let's stop one VM or one Vagrant machine. Let's stop this one. So Vagrant stop F22. You can type name, or if you're in directory, you can simply run Vagrant stop. So it will automatically stop the machine depending upon Vagrantfile or whatever configuration in this one. You can see there is a .vagrant directory. So this is having all the configuration about the machine. Like what are the machine? Let me show you. If you see, it's got ID, UID, index, all the information is this one. So if you run this command vagrant halt from base directory where your configuration file, it will automatically halt that VM only. It will not halt the other running VMs. You can see it is attempting graceful shutdown of the VM. So machine is powered off. You can see the command finished. Let's run global status command again to see the configuration. You can see the machine is powered off state. Only one machine is running. And let me quickly destroy that machine. So that's something we can cover. To destroy a machine, you can run vagrant destroy, and you can give machine ID BC42C7E. So it will stop the VM first, then it will delete. It is complaining because I have manually deleted the home directory of this machine. That's the reason it is complaining. So that's not a worry because I did something incorrect earlier. So let's machine delete this particular machine F22E3C0. It should work. Machine ID is incorrect. Sorry for this. F22E. So machine is already stopped, so it will directly destroy the VM. It is asking whether you want to destroy. Yes, destroy it. So machine is destroyed, and associated drives, whatever virtual drives got created, everything is deleted now. So now let me quickly give you another demo. How you can use VirtualBox GUI. Let's say your machine is not putting, you are not sure what is happening. How you can see what is happening. How Vagrant communicating or instructing VirtualBox to create a VM, to start a VM. So I'm using same Vagrant file. So I'm editing this file and I'm jumping to the section which controls VirtualBox configuration. I'm uncommenting this line, which is bb.gui. bb mean VirtualBox.gui mean graphical interface is true, so it is set to true. And because this particular block is for VM provider configuration, this need to end here. So I'm only saying enable VirtualBox GUI. Let me save this one and let's run Vagrant up now. You can see we have destroyed the machine, and I'm going to create new machine, so automatically it will get same configuration whatever previous machine was having. So that's the beauty of using Vagrant. It will do all the operations again. It will import a base image, then it will create disks, it will create container, it will boot up the container, all the stuff. You can see on screen when it is booting the VM. So this is something displayed on screen. So it is booting the VM currently, and because we deleted the previous one, it is using same port 2222. Otherwise it will use other port. So machine is booting at present, and you can configure. That's the reason I mentioned if you go to graphical, in that way machine stuck somewhere, you can see what are the messages. Now you can see it is trying to access it because machine is booted. So in that way Vagrant takes care of creating a machine, booting it, and doing the configuration. So that's something I thought will be useful for you guys. And let me quickly do another thing. Let me create another VM using a different image, because this demo was with CentOS 7 image, right? I just want to create another machine. Let me show you how you can do that. Let me minimize this one. Okay, backgrounding it. So I'm just quitting from this folder, which is demo. I am in App Store now. Let me create one other machine saying dir Ubuntu 14 demo. So this is my folder which I want to call. Now let me run Vagrant in it. So I'm just going to check what are the boxes I got. I already used CentOS 7 machine, and I'm sure you guys are good with CentOS 7. So let's use this particular box now. I'm running Vagrant init, this box Ubuntu /trusty 64. So Vagrantfile is created, and I'm in different directory now. If I run Vagrant up without any option, it will boot up the VM with whatever defaults in the Vagrant file. You can see this time it is importing this particular base image. In case the base image is not present, let's say you define something, you define HashiCorp precise 32, for example, that particular box or that base image is not available locally. So automatically Vagrant will download that image from the repository. Or you can define the custom path. If that image is not in the Vagrant repository, it can also download from the custom path. So right now it is importing that particular base image. You can see on screen it found that this particular version of box is old and there is new version available. So it automatically telling you, okay, this is the old and this is the new, and this particular update it is going. And you can see here right now for this particular box, it is forwarding port on 2200. On previous box it was 2222. So Vagrant automatically takes care. If port is already in use, it allocates new port. So that's something, and this machine will automatically get configured, because I have nothing to configure in this one because I haven't defined anything. So that's the way Vagrant works, guys. I'm sure this session will be helpful for you.